Picture this. It's World War II. The front lines. A massive American armored column rolls into position. Dozens of Sherman tanks ready for battle. But wait, what if I told you these tanks were made of rubber, and the soldiers operating them were actually artists, designers, and actors? This isn't a movie plot. It's the incredible true story of the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, better known as the Ghost Army. This top-secret U.S.N. unit was a phantom force, a traveling roadshow of deception that fooled the German army time and time again. They wielded inflatable tanks, sound trucks blasting fake battle noises, and phony radio signals as their weapons. Their mission? To draw enemy fire, mask real troop movements, and create illusions so convincing they saved an estimated 30,000 Allied lives. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on one of the most creative and audacious deception units in military history. How did a bunch of artists and sound engineers become masters of battlefield magic and play a crucial role in winning the war? Let's find out. The story of the Ghost Army begins with a simple but brilliant idea born from British ingenuity. Early in the war, British forces in North Africa had remarkable success using dummy tanks and other tricks to fool Rommel's Afrika Korps. They proved that deception could be just as powerful as brute force. The U.S.N. military took notice. They realized that in the high-stakes chess game of modern warfare, misleading your opponent about your strength and intentions could be a game-changer. So, in 1944, as the Allies prepared for the final push into Europe after D-Day, the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops was officially activated. This wasn't your typical army unit. Instead of recruiting hardened soldiers, the army sought out a very different kind of talent. They scoured art schools, advertising agencies, and Broadway stages, hand-picking over 1,000 men who were experts in illusion, painters, architects, sound engineers, set designers, and actors. Their new battlefield wouldn't be fought with rifles, but with creativity, paintbrushes, and speakers. Their job was to impersonate entire U.S.N. army divisions, making the enemy believe a huge force was present where there was only a handful of men. It was a high-risk, high-reward strategy. If they succeeded, they would save thousands of lives. If they failed, they would be a tiny, lightly armed unit facing the full wrath of a German panzer division. The Ghost Army's toolkit was something straight out of a Hollywood special effects department. Their primary weapon of illusion was the inflatable tank. These weren't just simple balloons. They were life-sized rubber replicas of M for Sherman tanks that, from a distance or from the air, were indistinguishable from the real thing. A crew of just 4 men could inflate a tank in a matter of minutes. But a tank that doesn't move or make noise is just a big lawn ornament. So the Ghost Army would use tractors to create fake tank tracks in the dirt, giving the impression of a large armored column on the move. Sometimes, they'd even drive a single real tank around in circles to create the illusion of a much larger convoy. It was all about creating a believable picture for German reconnaissance planes and spies on the ground. The visual deception was just one layer of their elaborate ruse. The second, and perhaps most important, element was sound. The Ghost Army included a sonic deception company equipped with powerful speakers mounted on half-tracks. These guys were the DJs of the battlefield. They had a massive library of sound effects recorded at Fort Knox, capturing every noise an armored division makes. The clatter of tank treads, the rumble of truck engines, the voices of soldiers, even the sounds of construction crews building pontoon bridges. The sound engineers would mix these recordings on wire recorders, the predecessor to tape recorders, and blast them into the night, sometimes for miles. They could simulate the sound of an entire division digging in for the night, or an armored column moving into position for an attack. The key was realism. They had to match the sounds to the time of day and the supposed activity. For example, the sound of tank maintenance would be played during the day, while the sounds of a large troop movement would be played under the cover of darkness. By carefully choreographing these sonic illusions with their visual decoys, they created a multi-sensory experience of deception that was incredibly difficult for the enemy to see through. The third piece of the puzzle was radio deception, codenamed spoof radio. This involved mimicking the radio traffic of the specific division they were impersonating. Each U.S.N. division had its own unique radio habits, the way operators talked, their slang, their sign of procedures, even their patterns of mistakes. The Ghost Army's radio operators were masters of mimicry. They would study the radio style of a real division, and then, when the division was secretly moved to another location, the Ghost Army would move in and start broadcasting, perfectly imitating their radio chatter. The German intelligence, listening in, would be convinced that the division was still in its original position. This allowed real divisions to move hundreds of miles in complete secrecy, repositioning for a surprise attack while the Germans were busy watching a phantom force. This radio trickery was incredibly dangerous work. The radio signals acted as a homing beacon for German artillery, and the men of the spoof radio team often found themselves drawing heavy fire. To complete the illusion, the Ghost Army had a fourth component, what they called special effects or atmospherics. This was live-action theater on a grand scale. Soldiers would drive trucks and jeeps in loops to create the illusion of a busy convoy. They would wear the patches of the division they were impersonating and visit local French towns, spreading false information in cafes and bars, knowing that local spies and collaborators would pass it on to the Germans. They'd even set up fake command posts, complete with a guy impersonating a loud-mouthed general who would accidentally let strategic plans slip. Imagine being an actor, and instead of a stage, your theater is a war zone, and your audience is the enemy army. Every detail had to be perfect. The wrong patch on a uniform or a single out-of-place radio signal could unravel the entire deception and put thousands of lives at risk. From the beaches of Normandy to the banks of the Rhine River, the Ghost Army conducted over 20 major deception campaigns. One of their most famous operations was Operation Viersen. In March 1945, the U.S.N. 9th Army needed to cross the Rhine River, a formidable natural barrier defended by the Germans. The real crossing was planned for a quiet sector, but to succeed, they needed to divert German attention elsewhere. That's where the Ghost Army came in. They were tasked with simulating 2 entire divisions, about 30,000 men, preparing to cross the Rhine at a different location near Viersen. For 2 days, they put on their biggest show yet. They inflated hundreds of tanks and artillery pieces. They blasted the sounds of bridge construction and troop movements all night long. Their radio operators filled the airwaves with fake traffic. The deception was so convincing that the Germans shifted significant forces, including artillery and panzer divisions, to counter the phantom invasion. This drew enemy fire away from the real crossing point, allowing the 9th Army to cross the Rhine with minimal casualties. It was a textbook success, a masterpiece of misdirection that undoubtedly saved countless American lives. Despite their incredible success and ingenuity, the story of the Ghost Army remained a closely guarded secret for over 50 years after the war ended. The soldiers were sworn to secrecy, unable to tell even their families about their strange and heroic service. They returned to civilian life, many becoming famous artists and designers, like fashion designer Bill Blases and painter Ellsworth Kelly. Their wartime exploits were classified, as the military believed these deception tactics might be needed again in future conflicts. It wasn't until the 1990s that the mission was declassified, and the world finally learned about this remarkable unit. Their story is a powerful testament to the idea that warfare isn't just about overwhelming force. It's also about intellect, creativity, and outthinking your opponent. The men of the Ghost Army were unconventional soldiers who fought a different kind of war. They proved that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a bomb or a bullet, but an idea. Their legacy is not in the battles they fought, but in the battles they prevented, and the thousands of soldiers who came home because of their illusions. In 2022, these phantom heroes finally received the recognition they deserved when they were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, a long overdue honor for the artists of war. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible hidden histories. Let me know in the comments what you think is the most ingenious part of the Ghost Army's tactics. See you in the next video.